Hey, sometimes you just get inspired and you need to make a video. So that's what this is. Um, First of all, I have been reading this wonderful book, which I highly recommend. Pema Chodron. She is a female Tibetan monk. And this book is called, she's written a bunch of books. I highly recommend anything that you're inspired to read by her. And this book is called How We Live is How We Die. How's that for some uplifting title? But actually, it's really good. Um, and part of the reason that I'm really excited about reading this book is because it sort of confirms how I work with my clients, but sort of even on a deeper or broader level, right? So basically, this book is about the idea that how we live, how we approach life, is also how we approach death, right? So, for instance, if you are someone who is very uncomfortable with uncomfortable situations, and you tend to be very reactive, right? You tend not to be responsive. You tend to sort of fly off the handle, and that's how you're going to approach death, with a great deal of anxiety and a great deal of fear, right? And that is also how you approach life. So if we forget about how we're going to maybe approach death for a second, right? You do want to approach life in the best possible way. You don't want to be reactive. You don't want to be fearful, because that isn't something that is going to lead you down a path of happiness, joy, peace, all these things that we think we want or claim that we want for ourselves. So how do you do that, right? And that's one of the wonderful things I love about this book too, is that she is talking very much about stuff that I talk about. And that is, first you have to become aware of your, what she calls in the book, propensities, right? You have to be aware of the what I call unhelpful patterns that you have in your life that keep you from being the happiest, most fulfilled, joyful, peaceful person that you can possibly be, right? So first you have to become aware of those unhelpful patterns, right? Unhelpful habits, whatever they are. And that could be, as an example, something along the lines of, let's take reactive, okay? That you tend to be somebody who carries a lot of anger. And so anytime something happens that doesn't go your way, you fire off, right? You shoot first and ask questions later, right? Maybe you're that kind of person. And you can see how it doesn't help you in your personal life, in your work life, whatever, but at the same time you feel like, I don't know why I do that, right? So then the next phase would be, once you become aware, is to start observing it, right? Start to pay attention. Oh, here's where I get angry. These are the situations where I tend to be reactive, where I tend to fire off and shoot first and ask questions later, right? So then you have begun to see and observe what those unhelpful patterns are, what those propensities, as Pema Chodron calls them, what those propensities are, right? The next thing to do is to sit with them, to figure out how to maybe put a space between your reaction in a situation and your response, right? So that you begin to respond instead of react, so that when something triggers you, that's a sign, that becomes a sign to you to sit back, to feel the feelings that you're feeling, whether it's anger, whether it's fear, whether it's discomfort, feelings of abandonment, whatever they are. Feel those feelings, be with those feelings, and then you can begin to transform it. You can begin to see where, oh, this isn't about this situation. This isn't about my boss. This isn't about my partner. This isn't actually about my child. This is actually about stuff that I'm carrying, that's in my head, that's in my heart, and I'm reacting to situations that trigger me in that way, right? So then you can begin to shift those patterns once you've observed them, once you've felt the feelings that are associated with them, then you can begin to unpick them, change them, and do things differently and see how that works. the idea that that is also how we would then approach death, and newsflash, we're all gonna die, okay? So no matter what we do, how healthy we are, all these things, there's a time limit on us, okay? So many people die in fear and pain, and what a horrible thing. Like, if you know this is going to happen, why do you want to do that? You don't want to do it that way. There's also there's other possibilities, right? And we don't know how or when or why, but we know it's going to happen, right? So if we can learn how to deal with the things in our lives today, that can set us up for what happens next, right? And whatever you believe about what happens afterwards, just the very act of being able to approach something that we all, like, one of the only things that's guaranteed to happen in this life, right? If we could approach that with, I don't know, a sense of humor, a sense of love, a sense of peace, a sense of acceptance, how would that reverberate back in our lives? Like, how would that allow us to live better now, right? If we're not constantly afraid of what's going to happen ultimately, right? Because so much time is spent being afraid instead of just living and experiencing, right? Being afraid of your emotions, being afraid of situations, being afraid that bad things are going to happen, being afraid that to me, that's hell, right? Like, I don't even need to worry about hell after I die, because that's hell. What happens here in this plane, to me, often can be hell. But here's the deal. It's a choice, right? It's a choice on how you see it. It's a choice on how you approach it, right? So starting with yourself, if you can figure out how you're creating your own hell, right? Then you can change that. It's actually possible to change that by becoming aware of your unhelpful patterns or propensities, by observing them, by feeling what they bring up for you, and then by beginning to unpick them, becoming less reactive, more responsive, and then shifting how you walk in this world, how you walk, how you engage with this world and other people and animals and plants and the earth and everything else, right? So that's what I have this morning. Well, it's morning for me. I don't know what time you're going to be watching this. Maybe it's 2 a.m. or p.m. or whatever. But anyway, whatever time it is, I wish you the best. And please feel free to respond and let me know what you think, or if you have questions, or if there's anything that I can respond to. Take care. Bye.